Afternoon. We'll begin the board policy committee meeting. Do we take roll call with this, Angela?
We normally don't, but we might just have everyone, I mean, I can take roll or we can say who's present. So we have some record of.
This is Rose, I'm present.
This is Tom, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm present.
So we've got the whole, and where we left off last time was at in the board rules of procedure. We stopped at section 7.2, which is the public discussion procedure. I don't know if anybody has anything different than that.
Take your word for it.
Okay,
If you want to talk, please make sure the green light's on your microphone.
yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so we talked about this and the discussion we had, of course, is that this time frame that's in here in A, period of 15 minutes at the beginning, 15 minutes at the end. You know, it certainly doesn't match up with what we're doing. And, you know, I think the question is do we want to suggest that you propose some sort of a revision to the full board regarding this section?
Well, I can tell you the way that the UG handles it on their procedure. From the standing committee that I'm on, they'll have an item that's presented. And then any of the commissioners or myself, we can make any comments or ask any questions about it. And then they call on the audience. See if anybody in the audience has any comments on the agenda item. Or they ask if any remote attendee has any comments. Right now, the way that we're doing it, the only chance for comment from the public is at the very beginning, and when we go through the agenda, and we've run into situations where they, on occasion, wanted to make a comment on, you know, one of the agenda items. So do we, you know, want to
Or had a question,
or had questions?
right? Yeah,
So
no,
we, you know, so we could do that with the 15 minutes at the end. We could just say, okay, hold your questions for the end and we'll have another period of open, or we can change it where it follows like what the UG does, where at the end of each agenda item, they ask if anybody in the audience has any comments.
So are you replacing the intro comments section? Because they don't do that. They don't have the intro comments. And then theirs are only 3 minutes. Generally, there's some exceptions, but theirs are only 3
Intro
minutes.
comments.
Or the customers, when they come in at the beginning, they have the comment section where they can speak on anything.
We do.
We
We have ours at the beginning and nothing after. UG, standing committee doesn't have.
no, they don't have.
Right. So I'm asking, I'm just putting it out there for thought. Would you do that?
If we do this with 15 minutes at first of the meeting and 15 minutes at the last of the meeting, then, you know, they would have their 15, you know, they could do their opening comments. Then if something comes up during the meeting that they have a question or want to comment on, then they could do and that would follow the procedure that we currently have that we're not following.
well, go ahead.
Well, my question would be if we were to do like what this originally said, prior and post, would we allow the same like to get up both times? Because one person could come in and have, like, let's say we change it to 3 minutes because it's going to become a lot more. And like somebody comes in, I come in and I speak for 3 minutes at the beginning, and then afterwards, I want to talk about the exact same thing. So I'm going to get up and I'm just going to rehash for 3 minutes. Or do we limit it to, you can speak to before, prior, or post, or?
Well, let's, maybe we want to say, okay, you can't talk about the same issue, but if something came up during the meeting, you make your 2 minute or 3 minute presentation at the first, and then you have a question about one of the agenda items, or you have something. It doesn't pertain to what your original comments were on.
So could we like change it to 3 minutes? Because we're gonna add space for more comments and say at the beginning would be customer issues. The beginning is just customer issue time because it may not apply to the presentations. But then let's say on our agenda, we have a water update and a purchase power update. And then it'd be like at the end, either at the end or at the end of each presentation, we have time for questions specifically addressed toward the subject that was presented. So that way we keep everything on track. And it's like, if you have just a general issue, you speak at the beginning. And then if you don't have a general issue, but then somewhere along the way, you see something in a presentation and you want more clarity, then you could speak at that. I think that would possibly increase the engagement with some of the people with our presentations, because as it is right now, they only get to speak on what they know coming in the door. And then
On their particular issue.
Yeah. Well, or even if it could have been something that would have applied to what was at one of the presentations, but they didn't know what the presentation was going to be. So I think that would be an interesting way to increase the opportunities for engagement by our visitors.
And I tend to agree with that. Look, I mean, the 15 minutes, I think that is actually probably absurd.
Yeah.
To even have that in here. I mean, I think it's more helpful to have, we'll have comment section on the front end to discuss, customer issues, specific issues. And we'll have a comment section either at the end or at the end of each presentation, Jeff, like you're saying. And then move the limitation to 3 minutes per comment, per question.
I think so. I mean, really, most everything that somebody comes in for, 3 minutes should cover their, an explanation on that. And if it's something to do with a bill or something like that, reality is 3 minutes will cover it, because after that, they're going to be speaking with a customer service person or something anyway. So they'll get more into the weeds. The 3 minutes is just basically a 35,000 feet flyover to let us understand that they're having an issue, and a generalization of what the issue is. So like a pre-presentation for customer issues, and then post-presentations or presentations or questions.
Or comments.
Yeah, questions or comments
Related to.
related to the presentation.
Right.
To the agenda.
So on that one, the reality probably is that we need to probably offer that time after each presentation. Kind of like when they, Jeremy does a presentation, at the end of it, he asks the board if there's any questions. We do our question, like standing committee, we do our questions, and then we open up general public for any relatable questions on that. I think that's a good idea. I think it just brings in a new opportunity.
It certainly refreshes.
And it probably cut down on some of the frustration on some of the people's part.
Yeah.
When they're not allowed to make a comment.
That's right. Maybe keep us more in a room of decorum like we would like.
And the UG tends to be more, they're directed at comments, not questions to staff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, plus the fact that it will also possibly keep the people engaged and present for a longer period of time. So that they can, instead of coming, those that come in and they just have a customer issue can state their issue, get whatever resolution that, or work on the way to the resolution and leave. But then those who are actually wanting to educate themselves can stay for the meeting and feel more engaged in the meeting. I think that's a great idea.
Have you been making notes, Rose, on
I have.
changes or
I have.
suggestions?
I have.
Okay.
I have it on all of here.
Okay.
And Jeff, you have all.
I have all of
now.
them now.
So you're welcome.
Thank you. It's very handy.
Well, and obviously, I think we agreed that I'll make sure that Angela and I get together to make sure that both of our notes are in sync regarding whatever it is we want to bring to the full board. Okay.
So farther down, the second paragraph of that area, it says no question shall be asked of a member of BPU staff obtaining permission of the presiding officer. Technically, I mean, I don't know if we need that because at the beginning, the comments are to be directed at, they're saying that the comments are to be directed at the board.
Right.
Specifically.
But that's in the, are you talking about the president's comments?
No, this is under the individual where it just says that called upon a visitor shall state his or her and record blah, 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 unless further time is granted upon motion shall limit to, and I think that would be 3. No question shall be asked of a member of the BPU staff without obtaining permission of the presiding officer, so the president. When a visitor speaks with regard to an agenda item, the presiding officer shall not permit any communication, oral or written, to be made or read where it does not bear directly on the agenda item under discussion, which I just don't know that the asking if we need that in there about, I mean, we can leave it about asking staff without.
So because if you're saying there's redundancy, and unless I'm missing it, the redundancy is in the president's statement, which the president can change
At the beginning of the meeting.
at the beginning
Okay.
of the meeting.
All right,
So if you
so
want.
we leave that in there. We always have that.
Right, it's a policy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the president's
Discretion.
discretion, because that opening statement is, although they've remained consistent.
But it has-
Mostly consistent, they've changed, and it's the president's discretion.
Well, I mean, we say that and, I mean, Bill is a member of BPU staff and Bill, everything is directed at Bill, to be fair. So,
Right.
and obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean,
We're
yeah,
all fine
he
with
is at that point, he's taken over the meeting. And-
Right,
and
but
he
he's
is
still not
presiding.
presiding officer in the meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you guys know that I have added some language to
Verbiage,
the
yeah.
opening statement that will continue.
Yeah.
And I'm overstepping a little bit here, but I have been to some.
Oh, overstepping.
I'm overstepping a lot. I have continuing ed lately and this has been a huge discussion in several meetings. The last one was the City Attorneys Association of Kansas. And this comments versus questions has been a topic, and the theme seems to be best practices. It's your turn to talk. It's comments, not questions. And that comments or questions tend to get out of hand, and that a lot of communities are going back. I think it used to be just comments in the public meetings, the public forums were the comments. And there was sort of a little trend towards questioning, and I don't have any data on this, but it seemed like just from listening, the trend is going back to comments.
So,
only.
so I could understand it being prohibited to comments only during that first section where it's the customer issue, customer pre-presentation, customer issues. That's a case where you just come in and you state your concern, questions, or whatever issues. But if we're going to allow time for
Steve, how you doing?
post-presentation,
Fucking buried.
if we're gonna allow time for post-presentation.
I know. I've been come in on the weekend, and just start throwing everything away.
Hey, Dave, we can hear you.
I'm not at where Lori Austin's at, but I'm between Lori Austin and Angela Austin.
David.
I never miss the deadline or lose it. Oh, just.
David, I can hear you talking about me.
Dave Melhoff, mute. Okay, so anyway, I think that if we're going to have the engagement, I don't know that we can restrict questions at that point, because are we gonna ask them to make all of their comments, all their questions in a comment form during that period?
So other communities, this was an issue, and other communities have said that, no, not all, but some said that, no, they're told this is your turn to comment on it. And if it is a question about, we're uncertain how this will affect us, and you can, you could make that comment, but not a
Direct question.
not a direct question to staff or to the board, because then it disintegrates into back and forth. And one of the sessions, they showed like clips that someone had taken from YouTube's of meetings that had just disintegrated with back and forth.
See, this is.
So they're,
And,
so
and
so they can
it
include,
becomes a dialogue that it shouldn't be a dialogue, that it is, it is your turn to express what you think. And if part of that is uncertainty, then you express that, but it's not you're not expecting answers, that we are not here to just regurgitate answers because we may not even know and we're in the hot seat, and then and it's not a dialogue.
their comment can have questions in it, but they can't expect that there's going to be
Right.
a
Response.
an
Right.
immediate response to it and everything, and it'll be the discretion of staff and board on what the response would be.
I wish I had the links because there
I
were
know.
some that had really broken down into that dialogue, and it wasn't a dialogue, and then they had taken over, the meeting had lost its focus from the business perspective of let's go forward. So that's just something that I've seen at several continuing eds recently.
Okay, so
Comments, yes. If you got a question, put it in writing or send an email or do whatever.
Right.
so
Take that.
at the first, going back, I guess I'm jumping back and forth, but on the first paragraph, so second line would be something like a period of customer comments at the beginning and
Yeah, Jeff, we'll wordsmith that one.
yeah, customer, take out the 15 minutes.
Right.
There's no reason. to-
Right, I've got that whole sentence
And
deleted.
the 3 minutes for the time frame. Yeah, I think that. I think that works pretty well, and actually. Hopefully will fare well with our
So,
visitors.
so then will we clarify in there that after board discussion has ended, there'll be a period for customer comments prior to the vote or moving to the next item?
Before moving to the next, before action or moving, or any action is taken. Action could include moving to the next presentation. So. And I think that I don't know if we want to from the get-go, but if you're gonna change policy, you don't want to do it twice. Do we,
Well, this one hadn't been changed since 99,
I know.
so.
I know, that's why you don't want to change twice, because it'll take another 20 years. Do we want to put a limitation on the number of minutes for the comment period after each presentation?
After each
Yeah,
presentation.
not during the public comments at the beginning. For the actual presentation, we'll have a period of 15 or 20 minutes available for follow-up, basically. I don't know that you want to just leave it wide open and ongoing. I mean, the thing about it is if it just depends on how many people are there and, the
If
engagement.
20 people sign up, 3 minutes, you're gonna have.
There's an hour for each presentation.
The only time I would make the exception unless otherwise required by law, because if you have to open, say, a public hearing for the water loan,
Mhm.
then you wouldn't want to limit that.
No, that's true, but for just a general presentation,
Right.
a public or
Well, if we're
Purchase
gonna
power.
limit them to 3 minutes per person, then you don't know.
10 of them would be half an hour. And then there would possibility of a response. If the comment is one that's, easily responded to, you might have 2 or 3 minutes of response. So it would be easy after each presentation to add another 45 minutes to a meeting.
I mean, you could have, if you wanted to have if someone wanted to come in and sort of throw you off track, they could sign up they could bring a group and sign up for each item, and then you would be, even with 10 people, that'd be 30 minutes after each item, and now you've.
They're not gonna want to.
Well,
They're not gonna watch normally, but I would say it would be
But-
possible.
Well, but subsection B allows the presiding officer to sort of control that. I mean, I don't think B needs to be changed at all.
yeah, so then the question comes down to, you just mentioned sign up. So are we going to require visitors to sign up for each presentation?
No.
I don't think so. I think they're still gonna have to obviously state, their name and stuff for the board.
If
and-
Anybody that has wants to make any comment about this agenda item, please.
Please line up at the podium
And
and
state your name,
actually, if we, please line up at the podium, that'll give us a good gauge of how long the comment section will be based on the number of people that line up. So if we know that there is going to be a topic on a presentation that may elicit a high number of responses, maybe we make sure that we look at our agenda for the night and not have anything, not have two really controversial topics possibly on the same night.
We don't. Never
I
have.
know, but it's just. I'm just trying to think of in advance, we're gonna only make the policy changes once every 15 years, so let's try to get it as close as we can.
So 3 minutes for those, I got confused.
3 minutes for the customer comments and 3 minutes for the post-presentation question or comments. Yes, it'll be comments, not question. And with response from staff or board at their discretion. Because the nice thing is, some of it could be, I've got these questions, I've got these things I don't understand about that, and then, okay, well, we can always get the information, and then at the next meeting, we can present that.
And I agree, Rose, that section D is.
It's pretty much where it needs to be.
The only thing I would do in section B, in the very first line, in order to expedite board business and to avoid repetitious presentations, I would say and or comments on the same issue or something along those lines.
Repetitious comments.
I mean, meaning
Instead
if,
of presentation.
if every single, individual customer issues are one thing, right? But then if we're like, close Nearman, right? I mean, okay, y'all are a group of people, somebody speak for you. I'll give you 5 minutes to speak
Yeah.
because it's, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just, something to capture that. And Angie, I think if we wind up calling these periods of comments, something like,
Yes.
let's throw something in parentheses, call them each thing. That'll be easier for us to put in B. I know you're excited for me to do the work on this and I'm excited to do it.
Well, on the next page, the first one, presentation period of 10 minutes, maybe.
Does that even happen? I mean,
It has happened once that I can remember, because we had a group that, and I met with them before the meeting,
mhm.
and I told them, I said, if you really want to make the largest impact, what you need to do is you need to all get together, discuss what you want to say, write it out so that you're very concise and professional in your approach, and have one person, your best speaker, make this presentation, and trust me, it'll get through to us. So they actually did that, but then there was a bunch of other people that just came up and spoke after it appeared.
So you've been on the board how long?
I was at that time,
No, right now.
12 years,
Okay, so that's 1 in 12, one time in 12
one
years.
time in 12 years. But the thing is we haven't had that many groups come to us before. That one was CPU versus Wyandotte County.
Tamika's.
Tamika Fletcher's group, so it was a little bit, but it wasn't her group that did it. It was actually a neighborhood group that wanted to, and I explained to them the best way. To be professional and to be. So you may want to think about whether we want to give a total of 10 minutes to a presentation like that, or make that 5 minutes. Group presentation, I mean, if it's.
One time in 12 years, I'm okay with 10 minutes.
Okay,
I mean,
well, as long as they do it like that, I have no problem with it. I think that, most of them aren't going to write out a 10-minute speech. They're going to write out a 6 to 7 minute speech. So.
Okay. 7.3. The only thing I don't know, I guess, let me ask what your guys' thoughts are on 7.3. You good?
Yeah, I don't even know that you need the approval of the board at that point. If it's. it's disruptive.
Right.
I guess approval of the board can be, doesn't have to be vocal. It just has to be it just has to be not a disapproval,
Mhm.
disapproval of it. So, yeah, I'm okay with the wording on that.
Okay, and so on the last line, and such person shall leave the boardroom. I think the intention is that we're actually requiring that person to leave the boardroom. So I think add language that says shall be required to leave the boardroom. And comma, potentially, comma, the BPU building. I mean, I don't know where else they're gonna go, but
Stand out in the hallway.
I mean, and that's, that's okay, as long as they're not being disruptive inside the boardroom.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we do have security on premise and,
Mhm.
that's, I'm sure within their discretion. If somebody is doing something nefarious within this building, they can escort them out of the building.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we could just say leave the boardroom, and then after that, it'll be the public safety officer's discretion for the rest.
okay.
You can use a voice.
Right now, we're doing,
Roll call.
all votes by
Mhm.
roll call.
That's right.
Right. And
This calls for a voice.
It can be a voice, depending on,
7-4.
yeah, depending on the president, they can
we changed to all roll call during the
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
Because we were required to. Now, I'm not sure
Completely.
with these sort of hybrid meetings, what the rule is on that, but I'm not sure that they have to be.
Can you research that? Because I would think that
But
once,
Because if
We've gone
we're
back to-
required to have roll call, then we need to take the voice part out.
Right, if you're gonna,
If we can do the voice and at the discretion.
especially when it's something like just approving minutes or things like that.
Right.
It's not a,
It'd be nice.
it's not a roll call vote for a motion, that's.
And then at any time, if they say, okay, all in favor, say aye, and you say aye, and then if Jeff said, wait a second, I want a roll call vote.
Yeah, I guess a board member can always request.
I will check what the rule on the hybrid meetings
Okay.
are.
Or people connected by phone only, they're not bringing up speaking, which is why normally it's considered good form for remote meetings to say who's speaking before you say something.
Right.
But you are recording and saving transcripts at the BQ Central, so it's not like the information would be available to.
And we're video too.
And you can come in person, but I don't know, before when you could and was why they had issued that guidance, but I will check on that issue.
We could always say, since it's videoing everything, we could also say, if voice roll call, you raise your hand if you're voting yes, and then when it's no, you raise your hand if you're voting no, as you're saying it, so that it's visible.
Can we just keep doing roll call? I mean, is that?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a,
Well, that, I'm saying, we're gonna continue.
Yeah, then we have to take this.
It just says may utilize. It just says may. It doesn't say you have to.
Well, I guess we can leave that in there in case it ever comes to the point that we're back to just like, no, well, I don't see us ever doing away with Zoom because.
but when you do say the retreats, those are public meetings, they're noticed and the public has access, but those don't tend to be broadcast.
Mhm.
Good point.
Yeah, okay.
We could,
Which is, yeah, okay. We'll just leave it like it is, and then we'll do roll call.
Okay, vote shall not be taken when a quorum is not present. If you're here by, by remote,
It's still present.
that's a question.
yes, that counts. So if you had 3 here and 1 by phone or video, then that counts.
Some kind of meeting.
Now, we don't allow board members to attend executive sessions.
Right, and I would suggest,
我去年took me off all the committee, so I don't know who I am.
I would suggest putting that into this at some, in some, I'm not sure where, but
So remote attendance counts as being present.
yes.
During,
That we're not, when it says, and is not present, we're not talking about physically in the room. Talking about,
And we can clarify that language.
add a thing in there about remote attendance by board members is considered present, being present, except for executive meetings.
So then do you want to allow the remote member to vote on the issue of whether to go into executive session? Or on the issue after, you may have an issue that was you may have an issue that was discussed and that would require a public vote.
But I
They
don't,
haven't been-
I don't think that I don't think that they're up to speed and they're not going to be pertinent to the meeting, so I don't think that they should be allowed to
if we
vote.
allow a board member to attend a regular meeting by remote, why are we not allowing the board member to attend the executive session remotely?
I mean, unfortunately, that's where I'm at as well, so I'm interested.
UG has an ordinance prohibiting, and they had this prior to COVID. This isn't a COVID restriction. It's just been there for quite some, I don't know for how long, is that because you don't know who else is in their room with them, it could break the privilege of the remote attendance. And so, and it's, which would mean that everything discussed would become open. If, if say they had someone in there with, with them that could hear it.
Well, I mean,
There's no guarantee of privacy.
but where's the ethics policy? Can I get that back? You got two of those?
I don't think I have two. Let me see. Got one.
Huh, guess I lost mine. Oh, well.
If you could, one lost.
Oh, no, it's right here. My bad. What's the purpose of this? And that's what I'm struggling with is, and I understand what people are saying. Believe me, I get it.
That, so.
Yeah.
This is the ethics policy. So what's the purpose of, attesting to the fact that we take this ethics pledge and we agree to comply with the ethics rules, right? And then it's like, well, if somebody else is in the room, I mean, that is on that individual person. And I do understand what you're saying. I hear you.
And that's, and I'm relaying what the UG.
I know. I know.
What
But
does the Attorney General say?
On that, I think they will allow it. But again, if there is ever evidence that
I think state government allows it.
someone said that it was, that someone else was present, then it becomes, then you have opened up anything that was discussed, and you may have an open meetings violation because now you've had a sort of an open meeting with going while you were in executive session. So there's just that caution.
And at that point, the public can have an open records request for the information that was presented during that meeting.
There wouldn't be no open records because unless there was a presentation. If there's a presentation, yes, they could make the request for that. If it's just discussion, then there's nothing to produce.
Yeah, there's no minutes.
Right, but if
But if there was a presentation,
correct, or a handout that we took back.
yeah, then they could request it and we'd be forced to supply it. I think that we open up a little bit of a can of worms on that, so. I mean, we would hope that everyone would comply, but there's nothing in the ethics policy that addresses executive sessions remotely.
You sure about that?
I'm pretty sure. Because we never had remote, we never had remote meetings.
I have control that with executive sessions.
Please.
The only place that I see executive product is Ellis Island. C7.
Page 19.
Page 15. That is the only instance of the word executive. Even searching for partial executives.
I don't remember it ever, and I was looking at more the ethics pledge, whether any of this 10 statements would cover.
Are these like the commandments?
Commandments for us. They haven't always been followed either.
I have my signed ethics pledge that Stephanie's been after me to sign. And get it to her. She keeps sending me nice emails, like, I might have missed your response. So I don't know who to, I'll give it to.
I mean, line 3 is as close as it gets. I will not reveal confidential sensitive government information, anonymously or personal attribution. Unless I have good faith belief that there's compelling public interest in revealing the information. So that still leaves it open. Back door, just ajar.
Well, I mean, I guess look, we're gonna modify this anyway, potentially. Saying that remote attendance obviously is permitted. But the remote attendees. Are not eligible for votes.
Yeah.
But you and I are on one thing, and so I don't know. I mean, do we bring that to the full? I mean, I think either way, we probably should bring it to the full board.
I think you could bring the both, you could do 2 lines. One of them being like remote attendance is considered being present, except for executive sessions, and then the other one is, would also be considered in executive sessions, but. I mean, you still leave yourself open with that,
Or
if
put
somebody,
something in there to the effect that a member of the board attending executive sessions remotely has a responsibility to, you know, make sure that nobody else is.
within earshot.
Yeah, kick your dog out of the. kick your
Well,
dog out of
let's
the-
just, use an example, if Mr. Haley is in Topeka and he goes into a room. It's, it's hard to say, is somebody on the other side of the door listening in, or, that's what I'm saying, it's not controlled. It's a uncontrolled.
Or that my husband is helping me with my Zoom connection at home.
Yeah, walks in, or my wife, my
Or
wife comes down, she decides. And so,
Then you tell her I'm in executive session, you need to take a hike. Dear,
but there is that point that she's already broken.
I have no, I
The
understand what Angie's saying and why the
I do
UT does
too.
what they do. So I got no, and unless it becomes a major issue, I got no problem
Yeah.
continuing the way we're just explaining that.
Well, if we went back into another, not COVID, but the next, pandemic session where we were all of a sudden all remote again, then we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do that. So. But I guess during that, we met. Even when, for executive sessions, when everything was remote, we still came in for executive session.
Well, that's the thing is I think we do have to obviously allow for that contingency. That we're all forced to meet remotely.
Yeah,
In
discretionary.
this case, you could. If you had a disaster like that, you would call the meeting, you would move to suspend the rules of procedure for that item or that meeting be due to the emergency, because these are your rules. And so then you could move to suspend them.
Or we could set up a skip in everybody's house.
Nice.
You haven't seen my office.
Okay, I don't have any comments on page 9 at all unless somebody else does.
I mean, do you understand what we've done here? Because
I do.
Still.
Yeah.
Not quite.
It wasn't much on 8.
I do. I do.
8,
Yeah, good.
basically, the only thing I show on 8 was gonna be adding the remote attendance is. You're considered present for remote attendance except executive session.
Rest of this looks like it's pretty much just
Yeah, the motions and everything. will be followed.
Robert's rules of order.
I feel like we follow these so well.
Maybe rather than having all this in here, we just say we adopt Robert's rules.
Well, I guess the question is, I mean, is there like a current version? Like, are we on version 900.3 and like something's changed and we don't know? I don't really know.
I don't know either.
Let's just look at that. Let's just,
That might be something, yes.
yeah, but that's a really good idea.
Some research.
Well, and if you guys find things, I mean, you'll bring us a red line version, so we can look at it and see,
I'm
oh,
gonna have a red line version of this no matter what, Jeff.
well, I know, but what I'm saying is it'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that B2 has moved, has changed.
Right.
And it'll give us all, the board members, a chance to catch up on any general rule changes that have happened over the years. Seeing much through 7.6.
And I mean, that's just Robert's.
And some of it is more formal. For example, the consolidation and agenda item is more formal than this board normally follows, which I don't think is bad, or motion. So you may not put all of that in there because it's not like the agendas are ever 30 items long or.
Thankfully.
We may want to look at 8.1 and just, now that things have changed with the recording,
Oh, yeah, Jeff, I agree with that.
refresh that to include the fact that it will be, they'll be recorded both
Audio and.
audio and digital, and then and also, how they're going to be
Available on the web.
stored and available, yeah.
And whether they're gonna be verbatim or abstracted.
Well, they're all, yeah, if they're all video, then they're basically just.
Yeah, the videos the minutes won't be. But the video will be.
Condensed version, yeah, just a condensed version of it, but then they'll be able to watch the video, and basically they can look at the minutes and say, okay, I want to get right around
We
there.
have had minutes when I was on the board where they were verbatim.
Yeah, for quite a while they were, but then,
And they changed.
then we didn't have the stenographer
They were more of a transcript.
Yeah.
For a while.
at the beginning, yeah. But now that we have videos, it's basically,
Yeah, but I feel like there's a big gap of time there where we've gone to condensed.
before we went to video, yes.
Yeah,
We did,
I feel like we missed some things.
yeah, it's possible.
I think you're right. 8.1 is the last thing I had.
Yeah.
Um,
The rest of the stuff, it's all just
right.
procedural.
And we had previously gone through the travel. We decided there were not any changes.
No, we didn't, it hasn't been that long since we did the travel.
Right. You can tell by the,
Yeah, it came up.
which one was done in 99?
Oh, let me guess.
So travel, the per diem, those things were fine. And I don't think anyone had any change. We talked about the ethics policy as well. And I don't believe anyone had any modifications they wanted to make to it. Do we ever not ever, but I mean, like, has Ruth looked at these
Yeah.
since 2004?
That was one of the questions. It calls for a commission, an ethics commission.
Right.
And we don't have an ethics
We,
commission.
Try as we might.
All we have is an administrator right now. I did this policy calls and it sets out,
That's right.
detail.
Well, and we had one for quite a while.
We haven't had one for quite a while.
Well,
There
when
have-
I got on the board, we had one because we were getting things brought to the ethics commission.
So
But-
recently, there haven't been a lot of strong interest for people to get on the commission and stay there. Get people cycling in and out to the point to where somewhere over the last few years prior to me, it was decided, well, okay, if we can't keep a full committee intact, let's just make sure the administrator's there, and then we'll go with that.
I can.
So if that's the case, then probably so that we don't get, get it thrown in our face, we need to just do away with the commission part of it.
Yeah.
And just have an ethics administrator.
And we could leave something in there that says that there at discretion, we could. A commission, a committee could be formed, if deemed necessary.
And you would have that power anyway, I
Yeah.
think. And
I mean, that would just come down to like if all of a sudden we had a rash of stuff. And there was a point that we were having a rash of stuff and that's why we had the committee. But then that subsided, things changed, and.
do you want me to send them to Ruth then for other comments or just,
Mhm.
okay, and do you want to,
Yeah, to have her. read
when
them
should
again.
he have this? What's the expectation on time to
Tomorrow?
get this back? Okay, I'll let her know. I will step out in between meetings and
Yeah.
tell
No,
her.
But
when,
that was the only thing on it.
could we have them by, you think by
First
next?
meeting of October.
Yeah, look, we could get, that way we could, if there's any changes need to be done, we can have.
Well, I mean, I feel like we can deal with the other ones in between, right? I mean,
And that one, yeah, if,
we can deal with this one. Just because we know it's going to an outside
Yeah.
resource.
yeah, that would give us time to get it fixed and everything before the end of the year.
Well, and I know lawyers, so. First of September wasn't gonna work, Jeff.
Well, tomorrow wouldn't either.
I will send that to her.
Thank you. Anything else on this?
Questions?
Did we agree that, are we gonna do away with the ethics commission part of it, the ethics policy?
I think we let Ruth look at it and make a determination, her suggestion, and then we can look at it and say from her suggestions, what if we need to move.
That's fair.
Well,
Well, her suggestion may be, hey, we don't need a commission full time. Why don't we strike that? And she's gonna look at it like a lawyer, not like me.
Yes, Bill.
So how do you want to move forward? So I know we've done things different ways. One is, once you guys complete your work here, it'll go either to a work session and then to a regular session, or you can prepare everything like we did, I think before, once or twice, and get it out to the board early, have them review it, and then take it to the regular session. So only asking because there's other policy stuff.
Understood, right, and I don't wanna, no, right, and you sent us a pretty extensive list, and so we need to get to those as well. My preference would be that we get our work done, / I get my work done and get it to Angie and make sure that she and I are on the same page. And get that back to the full board for their review prior to a regular session.
Okay.
I mean, and certainly any board member could call for, hey, can we take this into the work session?
Well, yeah, that would be, like, if everybody has a chance to review it prior to, then it could be sent out with the idea that, hey, please review this and respond to you.
By X.
Or Angela, that whether or not you feel the necessity to bring this into a work session. Or because we may want to anyway, just put it at the beginning of a work session, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes, just so, because one of the things we talked about was 2 versions of one line. So
Right.
maybe we bring that and we say, we'd like to know which one of these, which way are we leaning on this, so that we can get this and, and have the discussion. And then it can be cleaned up so that when it is presented during the regular session, it's a votable
Good.
topic,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the tail end of the year and all
Yep.
session activities,
Yeah,
including the budget, including, the continuing work on policies and anything else that makes.
I hope the budget stuff's gonna start real soon, to be honest.
Yes, they will. It will.
I mean that.
It will.
Okay, so yeah. And I think potentially in the work session, if we have some time there, we might get a feel for, and if we don't, we'll get a feel for what the board thinks, the order of priority on the policies that you provided to us, what would come up next. And if we don't have time in the work session, maybe we'll remind the board to send
Right.
a list to you and Angie as to what they think that looks like.
Okay.
Does that make sense to the committee?
I think.
I think that after you and Angie get together, do your blue line, red line, gray line, whatever it is. Send it out to all the board members. And then set aside 5 or 10 minutes at a work session, saying, okay, you've all reviewed the policies. Has anybody got any questions, got any comments about it? Any changes that you want done? No, okay, then to the full board.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, because 90% of the work is being done in here. So it's just at that point, it's just like anybody see any glaring thing that we need to look at and determine whether or not we want to change.
Such as the executive session.
Right. Well, and that's why I think it's important for, no matter which of the next policies we take up, that are on your list. I think it's going to be so valuable from a time perspective and efficiency, to have a red line of here's what we have, here's what's being proposed, right? So the board
makes it
can
a lot
evaluate
easier,
that
yeah.
coming into,
It gives us like, oh, we used to have that? No, because.
That's right.
You say, 99, policy from 99, how many of us have went back through and read it?
I did.
I know, but I'm just talking about in the last like 2 or 3 years besides that.
That's right.
Last time we reviewed it.
that's right.
Because there's so many policies, that you're like, revisit every one of them. So, but it doesn't make them any less important.
Well, and to that point, if there's policies that's not included in that list I sent you, then that can also be added to, so.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Next meeting.
Don't know what we're visiting next. Don't know which policy we're gonna visit after these. That's where we're
We
gonna,
can set a date and then
look, set it for whatever our meeting dates are, set one for 4:00 every time for the rest of the year. Hopefully that butts right up to Christmas at some point. We good?
yeah.
Okay.
Up in the other room.
Yeah, although we wouldn't be able to do it every first and third because there's other big meetings like that. Like we are going to have to eventually have a community engagement meeting.
That we are.
Yeah, and I have reached out and I have not heard back as far as a. Did you get anybody to sign up for that?
They have a list.
I'll speak to it.
It's the people who said they would do on the selection.
Good. The
We don't have,
Economic Development Committee, I have not heard back from Greg Kendall yet.
okay,
About any projects that need to be brought forward. And I didn't want to call one just for a general update.
sure. No, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sandwiches. Oh, okay.
Was the last meeting we had July 19th? Oh, regular session. August 2nd. These chairs are not easy. Are they?
Especially when you get to. Oh, you got a bad, I can get out.
Come on. There you go.
Those chairs are hard to get in and out of.
They are.
And they rock back when they sit low, so they.
Yeah.
Be a pasture.
Did we have a work session last time?
Oh, my gosh.
It's my new nephew. Oh, great nephew now.
Adorable. Name.
Nolan. Warren is his middle name. Nolan Warren. My new nephew?
Oh, Warren.
And when he will be, I will be.
Okay.
When he will be.
Okay.
No. Warren.
Well, she got the name Warren from another cousin. That you like better, right?
I think that's the name from Anthony's side of the family.
Okay,
Nolan is from our side.
all right, okay. Well, you gotta balance that out. Keep
Yeah.
both families happy.
This is they've had a couple.
He is adorable.